To know about relationships. You know, I personally have been experiencing various relationships in my life, and so I think I can add a little input, if you will. But with me today is a great person that I highly regard, Jo Wench. She is someone who I have such respect for. She has gained a lot of respect in being an African-American woman who's done a lot of wonderful things in the community and has done a lot for her personally. So Jo, it is so good to have you here. And what we're going to be talking about is just, again, relationships. And the theme here is any kind of questions or anything that you have regarding relationships, feel free to visit www.accesstv.org and provide, if you're interested, a question. And what we'll do is we'll get these questions answered on the show to the best of our abilities based off our experiences. Because we combined, I'm sure we have a lot to offer. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely, I do. And some of those experiences are not great,
oh,
however, but in everybody's life, those things happen.
That's right.
So, we talk about marriage relationships, children relationships, work, community, all those things.
Anything that you feel needs to be answered, we are the women that are going to be able to give you that information. So today I have a couple of questions that I received from my viewers. The first one is, I have been dating my boyfriend for over 2 years, and I believe he is the one. How can you tell if he is ready to settle down? Now, it all depends on the man. Let's just put it right point blank. In the relationship, and RJ, feel free to add some of your comments, but when you're in a relationship with someone and you've been dating them for over a period of time, and if you haven't even talked about marriage, or if it isn't anything that you guys have even bridged at any point, I would not expect to think that one day he's going to show up and say, let's get married. Because men are very much, they know what they want. They typically know. And even to the point of, if a guy is interested in you and he's seeing you as long-term, he's going to pretty much size that up in the first, what would you say, in the first couple, personally, I think it's in the first couple months of dating. They get a true sense of as to whether they really want to have a relationship with you. But you as a woman have to articulate and let him know exactly what you want. If you want someone that you just to kind of hang out and just spend time with, well, then that's fine. But if you have an agenda, and we do know that at times we have agendas, guys, and the agenda is in 5 years I want to get married. Well, 2 years is still a little early, so you've got to give yourself a little time in the relationship. But RJ, tell me a little bit about your past in terms of...
Girl, you don't have time on this show
what?
to go there.
Tell me, well, let's just...
You don't have time to go there. But wait a minute, but Lori, this is great, and I'm so glad, that we are actually having this kind of conversation, because how many other women and men too are out there saying, you know what, I have issues in my relationship, and they're thinking like they're the only one.
Exactly.
Like this is only happening to me.
Them.
It
That's
doesn't
right.
happen to other people. You know what? It does. And it happens to the best of us. You might think you have a wonderful, great relationship with an individual, and the day you get married, it all goes to pot.
That's right.
So like you were saying, that people need to, if you're going to get into a relationship and that's your long-term plan, then you all need to sit down and have conversation.
Absolutely.
I had somebody laughing a week ago. I said my ex-husband and I had it so planned that, you know what, if we got divorced, we had it narrowed down to the furniture, the dishes,
already
plates,
in advance?
everything up in advance, because then if you split up, there's no argument about who gets the couch,
That's
who
right.
gets the table,
That's
who
right.
gets the
That's
chair.
right. That's
Everything
right.
else might be in there, but the material stuff is not.
But let me ask you this question. How did you know? How did you know that this was going to be the man that you were going to marry? Did you guys talk about it in advance to say, we are going to get married at X amount of years? Or it just kind of, you guys kind of fell into it?
Well, I don't know. As a person who's been married several times, I'm not even going to
Girl,
tell you.
several times.
I'm going to talk about, how many times that was. But when you get into relationships, you think that this is for that reason. It's for the reason. And being in the military, some of those aren't good relationships.
Yeah.
It's assignment relationships.
Wow.
Like you going to Germany, ooh, I want to go too. So you get married and then you get divorced when you get there. So people begin to figure out how they can manipulate the system. Like, I don't like my assignment. I want to leave. Let me find somebody who's going to Italy. You get married,
So
you go
you
to
have
Italy.
a unique kind
So
of
yeah, so some of those were those kind of relationships, but the ones that I actually got married for, what we call, for love,
Yeah.
you go into it honestly thinking that this is going to laugh, like this
Right.
is the one, that this is going to be the relationship. And then a lot of things happen.
Yeah, things in terms of you have a change of heart. Either you've grown out of the relationship, or he or you can decide, this guy isn't the one for me. But in terms of the 2-year mark, you really do need to have that conversation with him, and you need to decide on what you guys want to do. And again, it all depends on each person. Each person is different. So in the answer to your question, it is a matter of communicating to your partner to determine exactly what you want in a relationship. And if 2 years is not enough for you, or you're ready to get married, then tell him. He needs to understand what your expectations are, because he may not have any desire to ever get married. At least you know right up front.
At least you know that that's his plan.
That's right. Nip it in the bud, and you can move on, so you're not spending a lot of time with one person who may never want to ever get married. So thank you for that question. That was a wonderful question. And we have another one. Now, this is a great one. This is more of a seasoned kind of question, because you're dealing with a couple who were married and then they got divorced, and then each of them remarried. So now you're into a blended kind of situation. And in this particular situation, there's children involved on both sides. So here it is. Dear Lorre, I have been divorced and remarried. My children spend every other weekends with me, and then the other weekends with my ex. There are times when my kids do not want to go and spend time with their dad. What should I do? They're still young. I need help. Okay, so that's really kind of a tough question. Now,
it is a tough question. I haven't been there. Haven't been there and done that.
No.
And then when it's a multiracial relationship, it's even tougher.
Ooh.
It's even tougher. So when people are of the same culture, I think you have less of a problem. But when it's a multicultural relationship, it's even more problematic. So, but I think in that kind of situation, I'm old school. Okay. So if
when you say
dad,
old school, what do you mean by that?
I mean, I'm the traditional parent. Like, as long as you're under my roof, you under my rules.
That's right.
So, that's just the way it is.
Okay.
My 24-year-old daughter live on the 3rd floor of the house where I pay the mortgage. So,
agree.
There are some things that you get to decide for yourself. There are other things that you do not.
Right.
So, in our situation was kind of unique because I adopted my daughter.
Wow.
So, she also had a relationship with her biological parent and my ex-husband, who was her adoptive father. So that became even more difficult. So it's not so cut and dry with everybody. So then when you start talking about relationship, well, he wants to spend time with her, but then she wants to spend the time with the other mom. So you go, okay, well, let me see, which one do you do, which way do you go? So then it depends, okay, now is she going to be around a lot? Probably not. So maybe this time she should go there where he's more accessible, he's more available, she's going to see him more often. Okay. But then you get into the argument, well, okay, this is a mom who didn't take care of her child. You ended up with the child. So then why should they have any right to see the child at all? Right. But then you got to deal with people's emotion. And I don't care, you can be an adopted parent and love your child to death. They still have that connection to the biological side. So you got to be willing to say, okay, what's in the best for the child? Not for you, not for him. What's best for the child? So when you talk about should they visit the dad or not, you probably got to sit down and talk to your kid and find out why they don't want to go.
Does age make a difference?
I think age does make a difference because when kids get into that preteen, teenage stage, their friends are more important than you who feed them every day.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? So if you're in their world, what they see is their friends. That relationship is what's more important because they understand one another. They do things together. They, they pride each other. They have secrets that and I don't know about. But the friend has that. So the child will opt to go with their friend rather than go with the parent.
Yeah, I agree. And I also feel that, kids don't necessarily understand what's best for them at a certain age.
They don't.
So even though that child may feel at the time, I don't want to see dad or mom, we as parents have that responsibility to make sure the kids understand that it is not necessarily about feeling all the time.
Right.
It is a commitment. If your dad is in your life today, and you're building that relationship with your dad, the important thing is that you need to understand that sometimes relationships don't always feel good. There are sometimes when you don't want to be around a particular person, but the important thing is that time. In order to build in that relationship, you have to continue to spend that time. So during those times when our children don't necessarily want to spend time
find out why. You got to find out why. You got to find out why.
Absolutely find out why. It could just be a matter of, daddy said something to me last time and I didn't particularly like it.
Or if daddy's remarried, maybe me and the stepmom not getting along.
Right. So communication.
So it could be a lot of things going on.
I agree.
And I'll tell you a story. Me and my sister, we were so terrible. We was bad, Rand. We were so terrible. We grew up in Dutch Point.
Okay.
So, my dad had came to visit us, supposedly. But what he did was he ended up taking us back with him to Washington.
What?
So, girl, I'm telling you, things go on in relationships. So, of course, my mother was like frantic. My kids, I think I was like about maybe 6. My sister might have been around 5.
Wow.
And so we ended up, my father took us to Washington, enrolled us in school.
Without your mom's permission.
Right, like we were not coming back. But it was horrible.
Yes.
And it wasn't horrible because, of him, but it was horrible because we didn't have a great relationship, with the stepmom for a lot of different reasons.
Goodness.
And she liked my sister better than she liked me.
How did you know that, though?
Because I was outspoken and I was not giving in. I was terrible. I admit it. I was horrible. I was terrible, and I admit it. I was horrible, But I was 6, and I was accustomed to, being with my mom, and all of a sudden you wanted to do. But it wasn't a bad thing as you look back on it as an adult. But as a child it's a horrific thing that happened to a child's life. And one of the other things that parents really don't think about is that and a lot of our parents are transit.
Okay.
So if you live in one side of the same city, if you live in the north end of Hartford and you uproot your children and move them to the south end of Hartford, you have definitely destroyed their world because all their friends live on this side of town.
That's a very good point.
And they can never get to the other side because, Hartford is a place where people are unfortunately territorial.
Yes.
So, these people live here, these people live here, those people live there. So your friends live mountains away from you, you think.
It's hard.
So and the child goes through that. It's really devastating that parents don't realize that when you move your children around that you really do that. Because psychologists will tell you that if your child is in a high school, do not relocate them.
And I heard about that too.
Do not relocate.
Because that's a time for them where they're learning about themselves and friends and having those relationships.
It's so important to them.
Yes,
a lot of suicides happen when kids are taken away in high school years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
wow.
Statistics prove it.
Wow. So in your opinion, you think that the whole concept of the kids making sure that they have an understanding with the parents and that there's communication, because communication
you got to talk,
is key.
Right.
Not only in the relationship between a man and a woman, parents and children, but in even in work, you got to communicate what your needs are and what your expectations are, because that is really the foundation of opening things up and resolving any issues that you may particularly have or any concerns that you may have. So
and a lot of people shut down in certain situations. People go numb and won't say anything.
That's right.
And that's the worst thing that you can do because the other person cannot figure it out.
Yeah.
And little kids will do this in a minute, but as an adult, you got to try to figure out what is going on, especially when they're not audible and they don't have conversation and they cry and they whine. You got to try to figure it out. But as children get older, like my 6-year-old granddaughter, she turned 6 on Wednesday. Both of us.
Wow.
It's not fair. I turned 59. She turned 6. Something wrong.
You don't even look 59.
Something turned wrong. I have to tell you about the secret, and it really is an ingredient. It's called The Secret.
The Secret?
So, yeah, really.
Is it something that you made?
No, I did not. It's a product. No, it's a product. There's a new
you have
product line. I have some little puppies here, but I can't get rid of all of it. But But there's a product that's been around for like about a year and a half, and people always say, "Girl, you didn't have."
Is it that fruit that they talk about? This cantaloupe. I know we're digressing, but this is called relational interaction.
But it's still about relationships, and it's
Yeah.
about how you feel about
Yeah.
yourself and what you use,
That's
to
right.
keep yourself alive and moving and whatever you think that you need for yourself. Because if people have very low self-esteem, then that affects a relationship.
Separate. Yeah.
Exactly. So, beauty products and what you use, it's about relationship. Because if I feel bad about myself, then I'm going to think that everybody else feels bad about me too.
Yeah.
Or if I can't accept the way that I look, then other people might, not too. Because I wear my hair pressed for a long time, and I'm like, I've been delivered from perms, so I'm not getting any more. So people are like, well, your hair is different. I say, yep, and get used to it, because I've been delivered from perm. I'm not going to do it anymore.
Go for you. Yep.
And so we don't sell those products anyway. But anyhow, that's a whole nother kind of relationship. When people talk about self-esteem, that's a great thing that will really get into your relationship, because you need to feel good about you.
Yes.
So if you don't feel good about you, you think that other people aren't feeling good about you, or you can't get into another person if you can't get into yourself.
And you know what? That's a great segue into another question that I received from a viewer. And it says, "Dear Lori, my daughter is a teenager and she has a lot of friends. However, lately she is being bullied, and she is concerned about whether she should bring it to her guidance counselor or whether she should just stick it out. As a parent, I want to do something about this. What are your thoughts?"
Yeah, I think that she should definitely tell her teacher, because, see, these are the children. And one of the things that I would say, and you could tell anybody, I said it, Arjo, that the system encourages bullying.
What?
Because if I hit you, the law says you got to go tell an adult. But if I'm walking down the street and somebody hit me, there's no adult to tell. I got to defend myself.
I agree.
So I will take that call every single day of the year. If somebody hit my child, she better hit him back. Because my child not a punching bag.
So you believe in defending themselves.
Well, you must.
Stand up
You
and be
must.
able to physically defend themselves?
Yeah, if somebody
or should
hits
they be
you,
able to-
no, if somebody hits you, you need to hit them back. And the reason why I say that, because you're not going to stop a person from hitting you by go telling somebody. Because as long as you tell somebody, when that somebody's no longer around, that person's going to still hit you.
That's
and
true.
then what are you going to do?
Right.
There's nobody to tell. And so you're going to have all that frustration inside, all that anger, all that animosity, all that helplessness, because this person keeps hitting me and I can't tell anybody, because the teacher will tell kids, "Oh, you're snitching." Like, excuse me, lady,
Oh, wow.
don't you ever tell my child that they snitching when they trying to come to a parent or another adult that says somebody else is doing them bodily harm.
And you know what? You do have a point there, and I agree with you. And I know that
And it's difficult. It's difficult.
It is very difficult.
But I'm telling you, I take that call every day.
Do you really?
I will take that call every day.
Okay, 'cause
I'm not saying I do,
Oh, okay.
but I will.
Take
I
that call.
will take that
but
call
here's
every
my
day.
thought. There are a lot of different organizational programs, things of that nature that are really fighting against this bullying thing. They have the National Bullying Coalition, preventative, whatever.
The government should do something else with that money. They should use that money for something else.
I understand, but at the end of the day, being a parent,
Yes.
I can't go into a classroom and make sure my daughter isn't being picked on, that person that's basically is terrorizing her.
Exactly.
And what makes it worse is the social medium out there.
Yeah.
You got texting, you got Facebook, you got the social. So it not only continues from the classroom, but it also continues in your home. So,
Yeah, so
you
that's
can't get away from it.
yeah, no, you can't get away from it. But that's that whole conversation thing. That's that whole self-esteem thing. I don't care what anybody says about you. That doesn't make it true.
I agree.
If they say you're ugly, so what? I had a conversation with my granddaughter the other day. They said I got a big forehead. Tell them thank you. You see
And
what I'm
keep
saying?
it moving.
Yeah, keep it moving. You
I have a
can't
big
do
forehead.
anything about it. I got a big
do.
forehead too. What
I
you gonna
don't
do
care.
about it? You're not gonna change it. You're not gonna disfigure yourself. They don't like the way you look. Too bad. Tell them thank you.
And keep it moving.
And exactly, because you got to build self-esteem in your kids when they're young, because it is so out there. Kids want to hurt one another, and they find those emotional triggers to dig at them. So your child needs to feel like, I don't even care what they look like. They got to feel like, you know what, I am
I
me.
am who I
Whatever
am.
I
I love-
am,
and there's
it's
only-
me, and
I'm the
I love
best
me.
me. That is
There you
correct.
go.
I
And so
agree.
your kids can't be going out trying to be like somebody else. So I never buy my kids like name brand products. Every product has a name. Put the name on the inside, I'm wearing it.
That's
If it's on
right.
the outside, I'm not doing
That's
it.
right.
Because I can't get you to put food on my kid's table.
That's right. That's
So
right.
I don't care where I shop. I shop at department stores, thrift shops, yard sales, wherever I want to shop. buy whatever I want to buy.
I'm with you.
You see, so if people don't like it, that's on them because they don't buy it. I do. They don't wear it. I do. They don't put anything on my table. I do. So their opinion is not that valuable.
But Arjo, you're a very strong woman, and because of that, it's easy for you.
It's not easy.
Listen, what if it's somebody who doesn't have that confidence, like you said? That
exactly.
They have low self-esteem. And back to the bullying piece.
Right.
You know, the piece where somebody is physically hurting somebody, and that person has low self-esteem, and they don't feel comfortable enough to hit back. What other measures do they really, truly have?
No, they have to. You have to begin to parents listen. If your children or your kids are facing those kind of situations, you got to talk to your child. Because what the other person is doing, getting into your child's head, making them think that they are the lesser of, that the other person is stronger, they are better, they are all those things that your child is not, which none is true.
Right.
But the child believes it.
Right.
So if they believe it, then it's their reality. So the parent, and I'm telling you, I went through this with my own, but it's not easy to do because your child believes what their friends say over what you say. You could say, I love you, I'm taking care of you, you're wonderful, you're beautiful, you're gorgeous, and the friends will say, oh, that's an ugly pair of pants you got on. And all of a sudden they just deflate it.
That's right.
You know, from all those wonderful things, they deflate it over a pair of pants. You know, so you got to keep talking to your kids until they're convinced that what they have is what they have. And no, you're not going to be trying to keep up with somebody. When my daughter was growing up, like she wanted like a pair of shoes or something, I said, why do you want that? If she wanted it because somebody else had it, you was not going to get that.
I agree.
You're not going to get it. But if you want it because you like it, because you like the style, because you think it's something wonderful for you, then we're going to go get it. But if you want it just because somebody else have it, that's not a reason to get it.
It's not going to work. I agree. I agree.
That's the reason not to get it.
All right, we have one more question. Okay, and this one is about sex.
Oh, girl, please.
Okay. Now, this person says, Dear Lorre, I am 17 years old. I believe I'm going to be with this man for the rest of my life. We've been dating over 5 years. Although I've been really young when I started dating him, I still believe that he's the one. How do you feel about premarital sex?
Well, you know what? I think she's going to have to do that on her own.
What?
That's not somewhere I'm going to go.
I agree.
Yeah, because I'm not going to tell people what to do.
Absolutely, nor should I. I'm not. Yeah. I think the purpose of this coming up is really for us to just kind of give people something to think about. I mean, clearly we cannot dictate what they're going to do. Right. But based off our personal experiences and things that have worked for us in our past.
Yeah, she probably should have, even though it's an uncomfortable conversation, she probably should find an adult to talk to. Even if you can't talk to your mom.
I agree.
Your aunt, you know, an older cousin, you know, even if it's a boy cousin, you know, talk to somebody else about it before you know, start doing those things, because I will not touch, you know, that kind of subject with anybody's child other than my own.
Okay, and that's good for you. I will. Because my position is premarital sex, no.
No, okay.
I do. I don't believe in premarital sex. I just feel like, you know, I think that at such a young age, it just kind of complicates things. And I think with regards to, you know, how we think that we may love that person, you know, maybe that person feels really good, so to speak, and all of those good things. At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you are trying to accomplish by sleeping with that person before actually wanting to?
Yeah, and then 17 really is a really young age to be making those kind of decisions. You probably should be working on, you know, job, employment, education, and those kind of things. Yeah. But I will tell you this, that I used to do foster care for adults, I mean for teenage girls, and to even include my own daughter, no matter what the conversation I was, no matter how much I talked to her, when she turned 18, she still had a baby. Yeah. Even though she knew all the, you know, the things that could possibly happen, all the things that I wanted for her, and the baby right now was not one of them. Yeah. There's no female that I've met in this day and time that had a baby by accident.
Oh, okay. And I believe that, because I can personally, and my personal experience, it's funny I say, no, don't do the premarital sex. I'm looking at it from a young perspective. I still had a child, fourth child. I wasn't married to that person. I cared about him. I loved him, all those good things. But I still made that decision that I was going to have this child. But the reason why I say no is because it complicates life. I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm not saying that I would think anything less of you. I'm just saying when you...
It does complicate things.
It does. It makes things a little more complicated. And if I had to give you an answer, I would say wait. That's all.
Yeah, and I think that any parent, any mother or grandmother would give that same thing, but it's because of life experiences.
I know.
And we've
know.
gone through it. And I tell my kids all the time, you know what? Don't do that. It's going to hurt. You're going to bump your head. But then they still got to go and bump their head. And they come back, well, Mom, I'm like, I told you that was going to hurt. And you chose to do it anyway. But that's all you can do. You give them the advice. You tell them what you think is best. And then they make the decision.
That's right.
So that's all you can do.
All right. Well, guess what? We're out of time. And you know what? I had a great time with Arjo. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I may try to make her regular. At any rate,
I heard that whisper.
And as for you, thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you guys again. And remember, do not hesitate. Any questions, anything related to relationships, feel free to visit www.accesstv.org and send us some of your questions.
Even the tough ones, Lorre will have answers.
If not, I will definitely find those answers. That's right. Thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.